大家好，我是 Sirant 在中国. Hey everybody, it's Sirant over here in China. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me today. Today's video is going to be a little different from our typical fare. I wanted to show people a little bit more about what it's actually like to live in China. A lot of media sources out there paint living in China as a dystopian nightmare, an oppressive government that goes out of their way to make life difficult for the citizens. I'm going to show you a couple examples today of exactly the opposite of that, where not only is the Chinese government going out of their way to make life easier for their citizens, but great Western nations, the pinnacles of humanity, the best places in the world to live, are doing the exact opposite. Now, before we get there, you know what I'm going to say. Do a guy a favor, hit that subscribe button. My subscribers are growing more and more every day. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And all you've got to do is hit that subscribe. Hey, if you throw a thumbs up, that helps even more. It's absolutely free and it's a great way to support the channel. 谢谢. Thank you, everyone. Now, let's get on to what I'm talking about today. What I'm talking about today is climate change. Whether you agree with climate change being a real thing or not, the world is changing on a daily basis. There's no lack of evidence out there showing that the world is getting hotter. The world is getting to be a much more difficult place to live in. From the extremes of drought on one side of the planet to flooding and massive water situations on the other. Then you have fires and you have extreme weather like tornadoes, hurricanes just ravaging not just certain areas in certain countries anymore, but we're talking about the entire planet. Now, when I decided to move back to China, one of the things that I had to take into consideration was the heat. I knew the summers here were going to be hot, but in fact, the summers back home in Canada are getting to be just as hot. The unfortunate thing for my friends back home is the vast majority of them do not have air conditioning because this is simply something that they have never needed before. Now they need it. Word to the wise, if you want to start a successful business in Canada these days, sell air conditioners. I am not kidding. The people that are selling air conditioners or repairing air conditioners now are making money hand over fist. They can't keep up with the business. Long story short, the world is changing. Climate change is here, and we're just going to have to deal with it. Now, it's up to the governments whether or not they want to start working towards lessening the impact. Like, we're talking serious heat happening, where people outside around the world are dying more and more and more due to extreme heat. For example, I just recently saw a report stating that last year, not this year, last year in Europe, 61,000 people died from extreme heat. That's crazy. And it is something that can still be fixed. We don't just have to accept climate change, but it's going to take some work. Now, let's get to the point I wanted to make in this video. What I want to look at today is what the governments of the world are doing to protect their citizens. Okay? First, I want to take a look at China. Again, this oppressive dystopian nightmare, this authoritarian regime where people are suffering on a daily basis. I'm going to go to Associated Press, which did an article last month about Beijing. Beijing orders outdoor work to be halted as scorching summer heat soars. Not, people take more breaks, drink more water. Halted. If you are at risk of being injured, your job needs to stop, right? Employers in Beijing were ordered Thursday by the government to stop outdoor work after scorching summer heat in the Chinese capital was forecast to reach 40 degrees centigrade, 104 Fahrenheit. Government departments were ordered to ensure the elderly and ill could stay cool after the city of 22 million people issued a red alert, the highest level of warning system for extreme temperatures. The government reported on Monday that Beijing recorded 10 days of temperatures above 35 degrees Celsius, 95 degrees Fahrenheit, the longest streak of its kind since 1961. Relevant departments and units shall take emergency measures for heat stroke prevention and cooling, said a city government notice. It told employers to stop outdoor operations. At the same time, flooding has forced thousands of people to flee their homes in southern China. The government on Wednesday issued an alert for possible flash flooding in Inner Mongolia in the north, Heilongjiang in the northeast, and Tibet and Sichuan in the southwest. People are enduring torrid temperatures across much of the globe. The Earth's average temperature remained at a record high Wednesday after 2 days in which the planet reached unofficial records, the latest marker in a series of climate change-driven extremes. So as you can see, the Beijing government took the extreme effort to protect people and ordered companies to not force their employees to go out into the ravaging heat and work. This is, some people might say, oh, but those companies will lose money. Is it better to save money and lose lives? I don't know. Let's ask the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott. This is from the Texas Tribune, dated, July 14th, just a few days ago. And it says, "We are dying. Houston workers protest new state law removing water break requirements." Removing water break requirements. We're not talking stopping work. We're talking about stopping the ability for employees who work outdoors in construction in one of the hottest states in the United States of America. Companies starting September 1st can legally say, no, you cannot have a water break. You must work outside in the extreme heat. Are you kidding me? Let's take a little bit of a look at just what this is talking about. Houston, Louise Martinez was working on remodeling a school without air conditioning in the summer when one of her co-workers fell over, vomited, and passed out from the heat. On Friday, she joined other workers, labor advocates, and politicians on the steps of Houston City Hall to protest a new law that will take away city's power to help workers who must endure the Texas heat. House Bill 2127, which takes effect on September 21st of 2023, will do away with local rules that require water breaks for construction workers. The cities of Austin and Dallas, for example, require 10-minute breaks every 4 hours. San Antonio officials have been considering a similar ordinance. Now, let's take a look at this. My entire work life, I have, both in Canada and in China, when I'm working an 8-hour day, that day typically consists of 2 15-minute breaks and 1 half-hour to 1 hour lunch in between the 8 hours of work. So for example, I would work 2 hours, then get a 15-minute coffee break. Whether I was working outdoors or in extreme conditions or not, I would get a 15-minute break. I would work another 2 hours. I would get 30 to 60-minute break for eating lunch. I would work another 2 hours. I would get another 15-minute break, and then I would work my final 2 hours and go home. That is standard. If I worked overtime or longer than that, then I would get more breaks on top of that. This is a system designed to protect workers from overworking, becoming exhausted, and injuring themselves, or in this case situation, literally dying. However, the Texas governor, wonderful Mr. Greg Abbott, has just signed into law a way for companies to say, no, you employees, you can't have a break. You work 4 hours in the scorching hot sun straight through till lunch, and then we'll give you a little break, and then you work another 4 hours dying in the sun before you get another one. Are you kidding me? 10 minutes. 10 to go and get a drink of water and possibly get out of the sun for just a few minutes before having to go back to work in these physically intensive labor jobs. Are you kidding me? Tell me again how America is a better country than China. Tell me again how China is this dystopian nightmare where all these atrocities happen, where the workers in Beijing are safer in the extreme heat than the workers in Texas. And the really scary thing is, climate change is not going away. It's going to take a long time, even if we start actively fighting it now, for these things to be reversed. How many thousands, if not millions, of low-income, hard-working Americans are going to have to die before people see just how ridiculous this is in order to save 20 minutes a day? 2 10-minute breaks to get a drink of water. People are dying. This is shocking. This is shocking. You know, and people, like I said, one of the most common things that I hear from people is, geez, Anthony, how can you live in a country like China, you know, where it's such a terrible place and they treat the people so badly? You don't know what you're talking about. Look at Texas. Look at Greg Abbott before you look at China, and tell me which one's worse. We have the proof right here from the Texas Tribune and many other news sources about Bill 2127, which is going to remove breaks from people working in extreme heat, and the Associated Press. And again, many other sources talking about how the government is ordering companies to give their employees breaks, if not remove them from the dangerous situation altogether. It shocks me, it horrifies me, it makes me sad every single day to see this kind of information that is completely insane. Anyway, guys, I just wanted to share that with you because there is so much misinformation out there about China and what a terrible place it is to live. Take a look at these stories. You don't believe me? Look up your own news sources. Look up Bill 2127 in Texas and see what that does. And pray, hope, wish the best for those poor people that are going to have to endure these conditions. And seriously, hopefully, other states don't pick up the same type of bills and laws against the workers and for the employers. Maybe if the world were more like Beijing, it would be a better place. Anyway, guys, that's all I have for you today. 谢谢你. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you in the next video.